Welcome to the Chasing Spirituality podcast. I'm your host, Megan, and I'm so excited that you're joining me today. Each episode is full of heartfelt and expansive content that will really help you expand your consciousness and grow as a person. I created this podcast because I wanted to share my own personal experiences on my spiritual journey, but I also wanted to meet others and have them share what they've been through and how they've gotten to where they are today. If you haven't done so already, it would really mean a lot to me if you could rate and review the podcast. This really helps the podcast grow and reach more people, but it also allows me to get more guests on the show. Now on to today's topic. Welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of Chasing Spirituality. I'm your host, Megan, and if you're new here, we're happy to have you. And if you are a frequent listener of the podcast, welcome back. As always, I'm excited that you're here, deciding to spend just a little bit of your day tuning in and listening to the messages that I have. In this episode, I want to talk about some themes around fear and self-abandonment, self-sabotage, and just things like this that come up when we're really trying to grow and heal and embody that new you that you're trying so hard to become. A lot of times these things come up, and it's a really amazing opportunity for us to see what beliefs we have, what programming is still beneath the surface, and what kind of stuff we still have that's blocking us, that's standing in our way, that is preventing us from truly moving forward into that new vibration. So if you've been checking me out on TikTok, I did do a TikTok video earlier this week talking about the importance of vibration when it comes to our relationships. This is also really close to what we talked about with Zion a few episodes back. So, this episode and those aren't extremely connected, but I will be talking about energy and vibration, and I did talk about energy and vibration in those. So, you might want to check those out if you've had things coming up specifically around relationships, whether it's more intimate relationships, or it could just be friendships or coworkers. It's really any relationship. It has a lot to do with more than that. It has a lot to do with our values as well. So feel free to go back and check those out if you haven't done so already. And I also, before we jumped into the episode fully, I just wanted to announce that starting in September, I will be adding another live to the community. So we already do one practice circle a month where we all jump on to a live video and we practice usually with a picture of someone that no one knows except for me. And we just kind of practice reading and seeing what comes up. And then we also will read for each other sometimes. So that's the one live that we do. The other live is a live channeling where I come on and I just channel a message. I just talk about what comes up. It's a lot like a live podcast, except a lot of times you guys get to ask questions and I will channel answers to your questions as well. So it's more like an interactive podcast episode, if I had to think of a way to describe it. Community members, let me know how you would describe the live channeling. If that's a good description, let me know. That's what I feel like it is, but I'm not sure what it feels like for the audience. So let me know. And then I'm going to be adding a new practice circle, it's going to be like a practice circle. But instead of us practicing reading like we do in the other circle, we'll be working specifically with a clair for each circle, and we'll use certain practices and techniques to work on that clair. So if you've been listening to the Claire's episodes, some of those things that I've mentioned that I do, those tools and those resources that I tap into, we will be using and doing those together on a live practice circle. So you can look forward to that in September, and we will continue doing that until I feel it's no longer needed, or until you guys, want something different, and we'll just keep it rolling. But so that's pretty much all the updates that I can think of at the moment. If I'm forgetting anything, I apologize. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and on Facebook. I do share updates there, so make sure you check that out if you don't already follow me. I'm at chasing.spirituality on Instagram, and then it's at chasing spirituality everywhere else. So let's move on to today's episode. And like I mentioned, I want to talk about themes that come up around fear. Fear in particular is a big thing that will come up for us when we're trying to make changes in our life. So usually towards the beginning of your awakening, you start to just kind of open up. You start to see things through a new lens. You start to see things differently. You may start to see people differently. You may start to have more compassion and empathy for others. You may see the environment differently, politics, you just start to really, it's like you open up this new level of consciousness, because that's literally what's happening. Your vibration is raising, so you're tapping into a different frequency, so to speak. And because of that, it allows you to see things differently. And this is usually when we might get deeper into energy work or spiritual work or witchcraft or healing, shadow work, inner growth and development. Usually we feel called to these areas, sometimes all of the areas at once. It may be that you started off tapping more into your spiritual side, and then you did shadow work later, or vice versa. Everybody's different, but these are some of the avenues that start to open up. And with that comes so many different things. We start setting boundaries with people. We start realizing that certain relationships no longer serve a purpose for us in our life. We start outgrowing people. And I talked about that in the relationship episodes, in the relationship TikTok, where, sometimes when people come into our lives, they aren't meant to last forever. They are. They're meant to be with us every step of the way. Some people come into our lives to be a big catalyst. They change something in us. They spark something within us, good or bad. Okay? Good or bad. And sometimes it's just a small acquaintance. It's just a stranger that says the right thing or does something that changes your life. All of these are relationships. And within these relationships, you both have different frequencies. You both have your own vibration. And this is how it works with every person that we meet. You either align with them or you repel each other. You either vibe in some way or you don't. And it's going to obviously vary, and it's going to be different for each person, because each person has their own unique frequency. There may be people that remind you of other people, and it's because their frequencies are very similar. And so when we look at our relationships in the form of, what are these energies trying to tell me? What are these energies trying to show me? Good or bad. You can use it as a tool to heal. You can use it as a tool for growth. But this goes beyond just relationships. This goes with our own fears, our own lessons, our own wounds, our own triggers, our own things that come up. And I've talked about triggers in another episode, and so we did touch on that and how you can use triggers to heal. And so this is also going to strengthen all of that information as well. So when you notice that you're triggered, or when a fear comes up, what do you do? Do you let that fear tell you what to do? Do you let that fear tell you what to believe, how to feel? If you do, that's okay. That's where you're at. Maybe that means that you're not ready to face the truth of that yet. Maybe you're not ready to heal that wound yet, but that is what fear is. Fear is a wound. It is something that you have within yourself that you are fully capable of acknowledging and dealing with. But a lot of times when we feel fear, we cower, we run, we shut down. We have all of these different responses. What is your response? Think about it in the terms of your nervous system. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fight. When you're scared, do you try to fight? Fight your way out? Defend yourself? Get angry? Do you flight? Do you flee? Do you run the other direction? Do you shut down? Think about what you do when you're afraid, and it may vary depending on the situation. Most of the time it does. Sometimes we fight, sometimes we flee, we freeze, we don't do anything. We just give up. We feel like we can't win. We feel defeated. So why try? Why do anything? I can't change it. That's the one I want to talk about a lot, because sometimes fear truly is debilitating. It really does sometimes make us feel like our only option is to give up. But I want you to ask yourself, why do you feel like you need to give up? And it's going to boil down to your self-worth, your self-love, and how you feel about yourself. Think about someone you know that you feel is confident, that you feel is authentic, that you feel has a true sense of who they are and their self-worth. I hope that you have someone that you can think of that embodies that. And ask yourself, what does their energy feel like to you? How can you embody that energy? How can you be that energy? If they were going through what you were going through, how do you think they would handle it? How do you think they would act? What do you think they would do? Maybe you've asked them what they would do. Maybe you've asked them for advice. And if you have, I bet their advice sounds really good until that fear creeps back in and you allow it to stop you. Why do you fear that you're not good enough? Is it because you're afraid of failure? Afraid of making a mistake? Afraid of not being good enough? Are you truly not good enough? And it's okay if you feel like you aren't. But I can promise you that you are. And if you feel that you aren't, it's not truly how you feel about yourself. It's all of the things that you've been conditioned to believe about yourself. It's all of your life experiences, maybe even past life experiences, that have led you to where you are today. Even your ancestral stream has these emotions, these feelings of not being good enough. But the only person's responsibility it is to face those is yours. And yes, it is a very daunting task, and it is a challenge. It's not always easy. But we do have to be honest with ourselves and be truthful about what we're afraid of. And that makes it easier for us to see the truth, for us to start to trust ourselves and love ourselves and believe in ourselves. This is also based on our frequency, on our vibration. If you still have all of these false beliefs about yourself, they are preventing you from being in alignment with that person that you're wanting to become. They're blockages. They are weighing you down, so to speak. And it's okay. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel guilty. We all have them. Okay? We all have different things, and this is what makes our vibrational frequency so unique. This is also what attracts us to certain people. If you think about it, the people that you are really close to and that you vibe with, there's different things that have happened to each of you throughout your lives that may be similar in some ways, or have at least created the same beliefs and the same values, and they've just shaped you in similar ways. And so parts of you vibe with each other. Parts of you sync up. So until you're ready to do your own inner work, your own shadow work, face your own fears, you're going to stay at the vibration that you're currently at. Now, there will be people in your life that will influence you. There will be people in your life that are meant to lower your vibration. These are going to be the triggers. These are going to be the hardships, the challenges, the pain that we're meant to go through. That's where you go back and you use these as a mirror. You ask yourself, what is it within yourself that you need to heal, that you need to work through? We talked about this in that triggers episode, so feel free to go back and check that out. But there's also people in your life that are meant to push you forward, to help you grow, to help you heal, to help you see your potential, to help you see who you really are in a more inspirational way instead of a triggering way. So you can use all of these situations that are happening to you in your life to identify what the fears are. What fears do you have? Are you letting these fears continue to control you and control the way that you live? Or are you ready to dive deeper and ask, what beliefs do you have that are still creating this fear, that are making this fear so overwhelming that it's hard for you to move through it? Fears will never go away until we face them, until we confront them. Running from them just makes them bigger. And trust yourself. Trust your spirit team. If you keep getting messages and signs and triggers and things coming up, trust that it's for a reason. If that one friend that you keep taking back continues to stab you in the back, trust that that's happening for a reason. What part of you is not willing to set boundaries with that person to where that no longer happens? There's all kinds of things that come up that tell us what we need to do. And they're all pointing us to a fear that we have. Self-sabotage, self-abandonment. These are two things that come up a lot when we're operating out of fear. Self-abandonment is when we abandon who we truly are, what we truly want, what we know is best for us, what we know we deserve, what we know we need to do, and we just abandon ourselves. That's self-abandonment. Really look at your own abandonment wounds there. Why do you feel like you're not worthy enough for those things? So much so that you would abandon yourself. Self-sabotage. When we feel sometimes like we really don't deserve what it is that we want, what it is that we need, we can sabotage ourselves. Most of this is unconscious, and the only way to dive in deeper is to bring it to the conscious, and that's addressing the fears when they come up, calling them out for what they are, and saying it's okay to be afraid. That's a really vulnerable thing to say, but you've got to be vulnerable to heal. You've got to. You have to be vulnerable, at least with yourself. I understand if it's hard to maybe talk about this with other people, but you've got to get it out. Journal it, sing it, scream it, talk to yourself. Like, I'm being serious. Like, you've got to get this out. Being vulnerable is a big step. And admitting, acceptance. Accepting that you're scared. We don't want to admit that for some reason. We never want to admit that we're scared. It makes us feel weak and vulnerable, and we just don't like it. But again, that's part of healing. Ask yourself those questions. Why is it so hard to be vulnerable? What's the worst that could happen if I'm vulnerable? That's a good journal prompt right there. Oh. So, I hope that this resonates with you, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And until next time. This is for anyone who resonates with this podcast and is interested in more spiritual content. Have you checked out the Chasing Spirituality community? Well, you can find out more on my website, chasingspirituality.com. But this community is a wonderful place for you to meet like-minded people, but also be supported in your own authentic expression as you go on your spiritual journey and you learn more about fascinating topics, as well as exercise your own spiritual and intuitive gifts. We have lives every single month. There's meditation videos and courses and tons of extra bonus content and videos. So if you're interested in more content, please go check that out. We would love to have you.